welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19 cousins. Oh, so I was prepping for another video that I probably wasn't going to get to until tomorrow, where we do a lot of roasting. We're going to make a lot of people cry. We're going to crush a huge WNBA narrative that just isn't true anymore. And it's going to be really painful for a lot of people. They're not going to want to deal with the reality of it. But I'm putting that off until tomorrow. So it's going to be up a little later than I thought. Be on the lookout for that because I had to get to this. I debated and I thought, yeah, I got to do this. So if you don't recognize this person, this is Nancy Lieberman. Oh, and her name's on the screen. But I did a video on Nancy on an interview she did back in, I want to say like early June, I think, maybe mid June, because she was one of the only people that had a name in women's basketball and in the sports media that was praising Caitlin Clark, that understood what Caitlin Clark meant to the WNBA, not just in terms of being a great player, but in everything else she brings in terms of the attention and all that and the opportunities for the rest of the players. She did the Wings Fever game and she was fantastic. And she did it, of course, because Sheryl Swoopes was yanked from doing that game, folks, because she is completely unprofessional. If you remember my video from last week, where Sheryl Swoopes on a WNBA, an official WNBA podcast, talked about the Indiana Fever and how they were playing since the Olympic break. And she did not mention Caitlin Clark. She mentioned a number of other Fever players, but she did not mention Caitlin Clark. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, she doesn't have. She is on a WNBA podcast as a basketball expert. This is her role in the media. This has nothing to do with her personal grudges. And if you are talking about the Indiana Fever and how they are playing, there is no way you cannot mention Caitlin Clark. It would be the same thing if you were talking about the Las Vegas Aces and you did not mention Asia Wilson. Simply ridiculous. If you cannot do that, if you cannot be professional in your job when you need to be talking about Caitlin Clark, then you should not be in your job, which is why she was not courtside against the Indiana Fever. And Nancy Lieberman, I was going to do a video separate on that, but I didn't, so I'll just mention it here. She roasted Sheryl Swoopes in that by how she talked about Caitlin Clark. And what was funny, I found after, she talked about how Caitlin Clark's the clear WNBA Rookie of the Year. She talked about how the players need to embrace her, the league need to embrace her. And this doesn't mean kissing up or this and that. It just basically meant understand that these players, you are going to have a lot of opportunities and financial opportunities because of Caitlin Clark. And you should be thrilled with that. And of course, that didn't go over well for a lot of the always looking to be offended, always looking to be a victim people who screeched and screamed about how Nancy Lieberman talked about Caitlin Clark, even though it was completely normal what she did. But see, the sports media has been so insane in how they've talked about Caitlin Clark that normal seems extreme when you're talking about saying something positive. So Nancy Lieberman was on Stephen A. Smith, and she talked about her relationship with Sheryl Swoopes specifically. And I did a video on this when it happened. So just I'm going to make it a quick rundown when she went on the Gilbert Arenas podcast. And this is what Nancy said. I have it running where I have it set here to follow. So this is what Nancy said. It came up about Swoopes. She talked about the fact that she's known Cheryl for a long, long time. She helped her with her shoe deal with Nike. She took her to her first ESPYs way, way back. She has coached Sheryl Swoopes, and she has been friends with her for a long, long time. And she called Cheryl after that got out with what Cheryl was saying on the Gilbert Arenas podcast, where Cheryl said Caitlin has played 5 years, maybe 6 years, that she was 25 years old, that she was taking 40 shots a game. All lies. She actually broke the record in fewer games, broke Kelsey Plum's record in fewer games. She graduated, she wasn't even 22 and a half. She only played 4 years. She took 20 shots a game, not 40, all that wonderful stuff. And Nancy basically told her, hey, look, you can have an opinion, but you can't have facts. And so we're going to take it up from there. What Nancy says happened with Sheryl Swoopes from that point.
Her records were illegitimate. And I got off the treadmill and I called her as a friend. And I said, you know, you can say whatever you want. You can have your own opinion about anybody, but you do have to get the statistics right. I mean, facts matter. And if you just get ahead of this and just say, hey, I made a mistake on my numbers, then this thing is over and everybody respects you for your opinion. And, you know, you might like Boston, I might like the Yankees. You know, it's okay to have difference of opinions. Well, she got upset with me on the phone, and I was like, Cheryl, you know, I'm not doing anything to hurt you. I'm just sharing. We're talking, and so our relationship it pretty much is not happening at this point. I tried to talk to her at the Final Four. Right. She didn't want to talk to me. My life's going to be good or great with or without Sheryl Swoopes in my life. I'd rather have her in it.
By the way, kudos to Nancy there for that last bit about I'd rather have her in it, because I don't know why anyone would want to have Sheryl Swoopes in their life. And again, and I'm going to bring this up every time because I don't think it's talked about enough. Let's not forget why Sheryl Swoopes was fired from a coaching job at Loyola after an investigation on how she treated her players. And she treated them poorly enough, it was found, that she was fired from her head coaching job at Loyola. Nancy Lieberman, and if you know anything about Nancy Lieberman, I don't have any reason to doubt this story. She has been every time. She is an OG, folks. She is one of the originals. She is one of the best. She's wicked smart. She's got nothing but praise for the new generation, and everyone else is nothing but respect. And for Sheryl Swoopes to basically cut her off because Nancy said, hey, you know, you at least got to get the facts right, which is 100% true, by the way, which again shows you what kind of person Sheryl Swoopes is. Because Cheryl's out there now playing victim and about all these haters and this and that nonsense, where she could have easily, first of all, she should have never done what she did, but she could have easily said after, hey, when I was talking about Caitlin, I got some numbers wrong. I apologize. Here are the correct numbers. And it would have never been talked about again. But now, every time we talk about Sheryl Swoopes, it's going to be talked about. So Cheryl absolutely didn't like this. She tweeted out some stuff again. Stephen A. Smith went after her again, and I'm not going to play a lot from that, but you know, he went after her about what she did here. If you remember, this was when Stephen A. first called her out last week. And Sheryl Swoopes tweeted at him that you talk about whomever and whatever you want to on your podcast. Correct? So why can't I? Also, did you listen to the entire episode? Nope. I have a personal relationship with these players and they deserve recognition as well. And Stephen here says what I said on my previous video. I love how she says, nope. And Stephen said, hey, you know what? I did listen to it. You didn't mention Caitlin Clark on the whole show. And by the way, you having a personal relationship with players and giving them recognition because you, in your personal relationship, believe they deserve it is irrelevant to your job on that podcast working for the WNBA. It's not about your personal relationship with players at all. So, you know, Cheryl didn't like any of this.
Cheryl, since she was in college,
and, that autoplay stuff. But here's what I really want to get to too after all that, because this kind of pissed me off, folks. I will say this pissed me off because I don't like this stuff at all. And I said this makes you look so much worse. I didn't think that was possible because Sheryl Swoopes betrayed, if these are even real, Sheryl Swoopes betrayed Caitlin Clark's trust. Now I know because everything we see from her, if Caitlin Clark got asked about this, she'd say it's no big deal. But these are texts, supposedly between Caitlin Clark and Sheryl Swoopes. So they should stay between Caitlin Clark and Sheryl Swoopes. You don't get to act like a complete jerk and then put this out there. I want to go through it because it's not bad enough that she put these out there. These aren't, it makes her look worse when you read them. Hey, Caitlin, I wanted to personally reach out to you and say I made a mistake on what year this is for you. COVID year has me all confused, LOL. I also have nothing but respect for you and your game and appreciate your skill. Congrats on everything you have accomplished thus far. Be blessed. This is garbage right here. And you know how I know it's garbage? Because I watched her on the Gilbert Arenas podcast. I watched her body language. I heard her tone of voice, and she was doing everything she could to demean and discredit everything Caitlin Clark accomplished in college. And don't give me this bullshit about COVID year has me all confused. COVID year has you all confused? You mentioned COVID year once, that this was her COVID year, and that she might have another year after that, which would be year 6. What does COVID year have to do with you saying she was already 25 years old when she was barely 22? I think the Gilbert Arenas podcast was what, in February? Yeah, this is Monday, February 5th, right? Maybe she even did it in January. Caitlin turned 22 in January, and you're saying she was 25. You're saying she took 40 shots a game when she took 20 in her senior year. It was fewer the year before, and we're only in, again, beginning of February here. So COVID year has literally nothing at all to do with those numbers and those mistakes. This is a garbage text on top of the fact that it's a betrayal of trust to put it out there, which is, I don't know which is worse at this point. And of course, Caitlin, as we've always seen with her in public, completely gracious, no worries at all. I really appreciate you reaching out, and there's no hard feelings. I appreciate all you have done for women's b-ball and for inspiring girls like me and building the foundation and platform we have today. And my goodness, Caitlin Clark is an amazing 22-year-old. And sometimes like this time, I kind of wish she wasn't, because I'm getting sick of all this nonsense that people think they can get away with because this is who Caitlin Clark is. And they know this is who Caitlin Clark is. You're very welcome, Sheryl Swoopes said. You shouldn't be saying you're very welcome. You should be thanking her for accepting your non-apology because of what you did on that podcast. I really appreciate you and your game. You are taking it to a whole new level. Keep being great. Nonsense. Absolutely nonsense. There's nothing about this that is good. Nothing about this is good. Sheryl Swoopes continues to show you that she is just a nasty person, folks. And I really hate saying that, but come on. It's evidence after evidence after evidence, and enough is enough. And I'll tell you what, I tell you why this is coming out too, because Sheryl Swoopes is afraid of losing her job with the Dallas Wings at this point. Because it is blowback from that WNBA podcast that is the reason she did not do that Wings Fever game. And on top of that, I'm going to go way back, way back. But you may have all heard this story. We're going to go all the way back to, man, almost 100 years ago. Lou Gehrig, who was a first baseman for the Yankees, who played in until Cal Ripken played in a record I hope I have this right. I haven't seen the number in a long time, but I believe it was 2,130 straight games. Do you know how that streak started? The starting first baseman for the Yankees, Wally Pipp, was sick. So Lou Gehrig played. Lou Gehrig didn't stop playing for 2,130 games. Sheryl Swoopes, let me tell you something. Setting aside all this other nonsense, Nancy Lieberman was much, much, much better at that job than you are. So you might not get it back anyway. If Nancy even wants to do it, I don't know. So that's a whole different question. But this has just been an absolute train wreck from start to hopefully finish at some point soon. But oh my goodness, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think of all this? Let me where do you fall with the whole Sheryl Swoopes thing? I know people probably get tired of it, but man, she just won't stop. And there's got to be another side to it. We always got to hear the other side. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Please like, comment, and I was going to say surprise. It would be a surprise if you subscribed. How's that? And I will talk to you later.